We are excited to share the April sermon topic of salvation and wholeness. Salvation is understood as wholeness and health. Parker Palmer suggests that revealing, claiming, and nurturing our hidden wholeness in our life's work and the path to salvation in this life. Speaking for us today about our monthly theme of salvation and wholeness is Dr. Lise Deguire. Dr. Deguire is a clinical psychologist practicing in Pennington, New Jersey. At the age of 4, she was third-degree burned on 65% of her body as a result of both maternal and corporate negligence. Against the odds, she lived through this injury, beginning decades of treatment as a burn survivor. She endured countless surgeries, extended hospital stays, and while at school faced loneliness, ostracism, and bullying. She grew up in a dysfunctional family with 2 narcissistic parents and lost 4 members of her family to suicide. Despite all these life challenges, Dr. Deguire has forged a triumphant path towards love, health, and life satisfaction. She is the author of Flashback Girl, Lessons on Resilience from a Burn Survivor, her soon-to-be-published memoir. She is happily married and the mother of 2 college-age daughters, and we welcome her to our sacred space.
Well, I started down a dirty road, started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed the hill, and the town lit up, the world got still. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings, coming down thing. Well, some say life beat you down, break your heart and steal your crown. So I started out, well, God knows where. I guess I'll know when I get there. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings, coming down is the hardest thing. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings, coming down, hardest thing. I'm learning to fly around the clouds. What goes up must come down.
Our opening words today come from the Touchstone Journal for April. Our life desires wholeness. Complete wholeness is not possible given the vagaries of life, but there are amazing possibilities in the pursuit of wholeness. Work to make your love whole, your happiness whole, and your courage whole. By doing this, you can overcome hatred, despair, fear, and more. Fragmentation comes from outside ourselves, the shoulds and the expectations and roles that are placed on us by others. These divide our outer self from our inner self and make it hard to reconcile these differences. There is, as Parker Palmer counsels, a hidden wholeness. Uncover the gift of your hidden wholeness.
Good morning. I'd like to invite our young friends up for a special story. You may bring your cushions if you want them. Something's in our box today. I wonder what it is. Who hasn't had a turn to open our box? Would you like to try opening our box, Carmen? We'll see what's inside. What is it? You can take it out. Oh. What is it? Yeah, what's it made of? Yeah, it's a paper bag. What do you all think of when you think of a paper bag? Lunch? Trees, okay. Dinner? Very good. Who thinks of a princess when they think of a paper bag? Well, there is a fabulous story that we're going to hear today that our speaker is going to tell us, and it's about a paper bag princess. And I say this a lot, but it's one of my favorite stories. So I'm going to turn it over for our speaker.
Thank you. Hello. Hi. I have a story here, and I used to read this to my kids. I'm very excited to read it again. It's called The Paper Bag Princess by Robert Munsch. So, Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald. Unfortunately, a dragon smashed her castle, burned all her clothes, and carried away Prince Ronald. End of story, he says. Elizabeth decided to chase the dragon and get Ronald back. She looked everywhere for something to wear, but the only thing that she could find that was not burned was a paper bag. So she put on the paper bag and followed the dragon. He was easy to follow because he left a trail of burnt forests and horses' bones. Finally, Elizabeth came to a cave with a large door that had a huge knocker on it. She took hold of the knocker, bang, 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 and banged on the door. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Well, a princess! I love to eat princesses, but I've already eaten a whole castle today. Go away, I'm a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." He slammed the door so fast that Elizabeth almost got her nose caught in it. Elizabeth grabbed the knocker, and she banged on the door again. The dragon stuck his nose out the door and said, "Go away. I love to eat princesses, but I've already eaten a whole castle today. I am a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." "Wait!" shouted Elizabeth. "Is it true that you are the smartest and fiercest dragon in the whole world?" "Yes," said the dragon. "Is it true," said Elizabeth, "that you can burn up 10 forests in your fiery breath?" "Oh, yes," said the dragon, and he took a huge deep breath, and he breathed out so much fire that he burned up 50 forests. "Fantastic," said Elizabeth. And the dragon took another huge breath, and he breathed out so much fire that he burned up 100 forests. "Magnificent," said Elizabeth. And the dragon took another huge breath, but this time nothing came out. The dragon didn't have enough fire left to cook a meatball. Elizabeth shouted, "Dragon, is it true that you can fly all around the world in just 10 seconds?" "Why, yes," said the dragon, and he jumped up and he flew all the way around the world in just 10 seconds. He was very tired when he got back, but Elizabeth shouted, "Fantastic! Do it again!" So the dragon jumped up and he flew all around the world in just 20 seconds. When he got back, he was too tired to talk, and he lay down and he went straight to sleep. Elizabeth whispered very softly, "Hey, dragon." The dragon didn't move at all. She lifted up the dragon's ear and she put her head right inside. She shouted as loud as she could, "Hey, dragon!" The dragon was so tired he didn't even move. Elizabeth walked right over the dragon and opened the door to the cave. There was Prince Ronald. He looked at her and said, what do you think he said? Great to see ya. Thanks for coming. Thanks for saving me. You rock, right? He said, Elizabeth, you are a mess. You smell like ashes. Your hair is all tangled, and you're wearing a dirty old paper bag. Come back when you were dressed like a real princess. Ronald, said Elizabeth, your clothes are really pretty, and your hair is very neat. You look like a real prince, but you are a bum. They didn't get married after all. The end.
The darker the night, the brighter the stars. Everything's fun to a young heart. And you find out what your heart used to be. It's gonna feel like you've been dreaming. Love, if you want the truth, anything's possible. You can walk upon the moon, or you can watch it roll. It's never in the stars, it's in your heart. Yeah, you'll get kicked around, but get up anyway. You'll be broken into better shape. Broken into better shape. Things can go wrong when they should be right. And it can haunt you the rest of your life. If you let it, da 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 da, it will let you down. Love, if you want the truth, anything's possible. You can climb upon the moon, or you can watch it roll. It's never in the stars, it's in your heart. Yeah, you'll get kicked around, but get up anyway. You'll be broken into better shape. Broken into better shape. When the pieces rearrange, you'll be broken into better, broken into better shape. You'll be broken into better shape.
Our Deepest Fear by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond all measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
A new day dawns, and I'm practicing my purpose once again. It is fresh and it is fruitful if I win, but if I lose, ooh, I don't know. I'll be tired and I will turn and I will go. Only guessing till I get there, then I'll know. Oh, I will know. All will be well, even after all the promises you've broken to yourself. All will be well. You can ask me how, but only time will tell. All will be well, even after all the promises you've broken to yourself. All will be well. You can ask me how, but only time will tell. You can ask me how, but only time will tell.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. Although I'm not currently active in UU, I have been in the past, a long time ago, but I have a lot of respect for the UU traditions and values, and it's really an honor to be here today. Thank you. I'm Dr. Lise Deguire. I'm a psychologist. I practice in Pennington. I've been in private practice for about 19 years now, and I love my work. It's a privilege to help people. So this story, The Paper Bag Princess, is a story about a little girl, princess I guess, but she's a girl, right, who survives a fire, loses her good looks and everything she has, sets off alone, gets rejected, and saves herself. And this is also my story in many ways. I want to tell you, hold on, I'm a little tech anxious here, so I should have put that up before. Forgive me. All right, I want to tell you a little bit about what I've been through and how I came to survive it. I have written a book. Did I do it? I didn't do it. Bear with me, guys. I'm sorry. I did it. I've written a book called Flashback Girl, and it's under representation. I'm still looking for a good publisher for it. And I'm going to read an excerpt from it at some point during our talk today. My goal is to share a little bit about myself with you and to talk about resilience and what I think helps people get through what might seem at the time unsurvivable and how we can help each other. Okay. When I was 4 years old, my family took a vacation up to Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. This is not the cabin we were at, but it kind of gives you a sense of the beauty of the place and what it looked like. My family consisted of my father, my mother, my older brother Mark, 5 years older than me, and myself. And we borrowed this cabin to stay for a few days, or so we thought. And the cabin was right on the lake. It had a fence around the front porch, all the way around, except for one entrance that went off the porch down and towards the lake. So we gathered there our first night to have dinner, and my mother was going to barbecue. My father and my brother are on one side of the porch. My mother and I are on the other. And the porch, I should say, had these crisscross railings. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. They look like that. Okay. So my mother decides to start this charcoal grill, the old-fashioned charcoal briskets and lighter fluid. She puts the charcoal out, and she has what she thinks is lighter fluid, but it isn't. It's a household solvent. She pours it on the lighter fluid, goes to light it. It doesn't light. Or so she thought. She poured more lighter fluid on it, again, not lighter fluid, and there was a little flame in there, and the flame went right up into the lighter fluid, not lighter fluid can, exploded all over my mother and me. The fire blocked off the entrance off the porch, and I'm next to my mother. I'm 4, and my mother, God bless her soul, took one look at the way out, dashed off, saved herself, and left me there. So I'm 4. I'm trapped. The fire's backing me into a corner. There's nowhere for me to go. And I'm back in the corner of this fence, alone, abandoned, on fire. My father, though, sees me, and he jumps off the porch, runs around, and is just able to reach me. And because it's that crisscross fence, I just could fit through. So he yanked me down, he rolls me in pine needles. Pine needles don't extinguish a fire. I'm still on fire. He carries me down to the lake, and he calls to my mother, take her, because I couldn't swim because I was 4. And my mother's like, I can't. And my father's like, you have to take her. He throws me in, my mother catches me, and I'm good. Kinda. So an ambulance comes, one ambulance, because it's in the middle of nowhere. The ambulance takes my mother, and my father says, I'll drive her. So we get in the car. It's those old-fashioned seats. You remember the bench seats in the front of the car? So I'm on the bench seat with my father. He's driving me. And he's assuming I'm gone for. I mean, there's just no way he thought I was going to live, and he's just trying to comfort me as best he can. And he's like, come on, let's sing. And I'm like, I'm not singing. But we had just seen The Sound of Music, and he starts singing, raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. And I sang with him. And we sang all the way to the hospital, where they saved me, which was just kind of an incredible miracle because nobody like me was saved in 1967. I was burned 3rd-degree burns, 65% of my body. I had no neck left, no chin, no bottom lip, and my arms were fused to my body. I'm going to show you a picture, and it's not pretty, so I won't show it long if you don't want to see it, but just so you know, this is how I was for a while. So, I was in the hospital off and on for many years. A lot of people ask me how many surgeries I had, and the answer is I don't know because nobody counted. I'm from a very strange family, and there was a lot of love, but really a lot of neglect. And the surgeries and procedures for burn recovery are excruciating, and I was in the hospital most of the time alone, partly because we were up in Boston and my family lived in New Jersey, so there wasn't anybody to come see me, partly because my mother didn't come to visit me very much, and partly just because, I don't know, that's how it was. When I wasn't in the hospital doing all this, I was home, trying my best to fit in and do what I could. My parents, again, were pretty self-absorbed, partly because they had been through a lot, and partly because they were just pretty self-absorbed people. So I did my best to get on with things. I went to school. This is me, 1st grade. So you can see I've had a fair amount of reconstruction, but I'm still pretty bad, right? This is my school picture. See how I'm trying to smile? Yeah. I want to read you a little part of my book at this point. It's a story about those times being in school. This story is called Walking to Kindergarten. So I look like this, only a little worse at this point, because this is kindergarten, that's 1st grade. I walked alone to kindergarten when I was 5 years old. I liked school. What I didn't like was walking to school. At this time, I was hideously disfigured. I had no neck, no chin, and no bottom lip. The fire had burned away all of these body parts, and the grafts over these areas were tight, purple, and banded. My scars, which covered 2/3 of my body, were raised purple and red. Frequently, just after another surgery, I would be strapped into a splint that made me hold my arm permanently perpendicular to my body. These splints were nicknamed airplane splints because they made a burned kid look perpetually like half an airplane. At other times, my arms would be free, but my neck would be splinted up, so I couldn't look down or eat my food with any accuracy. I was truly a remarkable sight, not a pretty one. I walked alone in my various splints with my bright purple scars down the streets of East Orange, New Jersey. Although kids who knew me were usually nice, the kids who didn't know me were horrible. As I trudged along, kids would run past me screaming, "Yuck! You're so ugly," they would say. "Gross." Cars would drive past me, their passengers shouting out the window how repulsive I was and pretending to gag. These incidents happened every day. I would cry and cry, walking home alone, one arm aloft in my splint. "Ugly girl, go away! Yuck!" I trudged home, trying not to hear the taunts, keeping my tearful eyes on the sidewalk. I tried not to step on the cracks, which was supposed to be bad luck. How much worse could my luck actually get? My parents were matter-of-fact about these incidents. They showed neither concern nor sympathy, and they had the attitude of, "That's how it is." Perhaps the trauma had exhausted them. Perhaps the trauma had hardened them. Perhaps they were already hard. If he were here, my father would say he didn't want me to be spoiled. My mother would say that she herself was so traumatized by her own injuries to be able to think about mine. She might even say, voice rising, eyes flashing, she was too traumatized by her own injuries. She shouldn't have to think about mine. For whatever reasons, I walked alone at 5 years old, literally and figuratively. I trudged back and forth every day to school, trying to be cheerful and hoping that no one would notice me and my splints. I tried to fit in and be normal, but it was hopeless. I stood out like the ugliest duckling the world has ever seen. By the end of my walk, many days I was crying, but there was someone watching me. There was an old man I didn't know watching me. One day, on my lonely walk back from school, an old man stopped me. He lived in a tidy white house with black shutters and a little front porch. He was an older white man with short gray hair and black glasses. Smiling, the old man said, "Hello there, how are you doing today? Hey, I have something you think you might like. Why don't you come in my backyard for a minute?" I know today a child might pause to fear this man was a creepy, abusive pedophile. Back then, in 1968, kids didn't think about strangers with fear. And as it turned out, this old man was not an abusive man anyway. I don't even know his name, but he had a different agenda. His small backyard was bordered with a high stockade fence. The yard burst with roses. Roses climbed all 3 walls of the fence, forming a sea of pink, red, yellow, and white. The air itself smelled intensely sweet, like honey and spice and sugar all heated up together. I had never seen or smelled anything like this yard, so surprisingly hidden behind an ordinary fence. It felt like paradise. The man asked me, "Which roses do you like the most? Which ones are the very nicest ones of all?" "They're all nice," I said politely. "Well, thank you, but which ones do you like the best? I want to make you a little treat." I peered up at this strange man. He seemed nice enough. I didn't understand why you would want to give me anything at all. "Well, I like that, and that one too." And as I pointed to all the prettiest flowers, the old man carefully cut each bud, creating a small multicolored nosegay for me. Then he carefully wrapped the red, pink, yellow, and white roses in tinfoil so the thorns wouldn't hurt my hands. With a surprising flourish, the man presented me with my own beautiful bouquet and sent me on my way. I skipped all the way home, holding my delicate, sweet-smelling roses, feeling like a princess. No other kids had a nosegay of flowers for their walk home. For the first time in a long time, I felt special, but in a good way. My mother put the roses in a blue vase, and I sniffed them every morning before I left for school. They smelled like heaven. This same man gave me many more bouquets of flowers. At the time, I thought he was just a really nice man who really liked to give me flowers. Many years later, I recognized that he had probably witnessed my lonely walks of humiliation and rejection, and he had pity on me, the little burn girl who walked alone, whom everybody called ugly. This is the thing. This is my whole story in a nutshell. People can be awful. They can be so mean and cruel. Life can blindside us with brutality and disappointment. But then there are the strangers who give little burn girls the best roses out of their gardens. There are those people, too. Okay. I am well now. I'm happy, I'm successful, I'm loved. I have a beautiful family. I have a great job. I have great friends. My best friend from 8th grade is here. That's how good it is for me now. But how did I get here? What helps us be the plant on the left that's growing versus that little plant that's barely making it? There are resilience factors that we found that seem to help people recover from things that you might otherwise think are unrecoverable from. Sorry, that's not a sentence, but there you go. Some of them are inborn and we can't do anything about it. You have it or you don't. Extroversion, the ability to connect with people, to be interested in that, to want to make connections. I've always been like that. That's a inborn trait, by the way. Babies come out that way, or not. But the ability to ask for help, the ability to say, I have a problem, and maybe you could help me with that. The ability to reach out and ask someone for help, we can teach people that. That's a learned skill. That's my massage therapist. Intelligence, that's inborn. Nothing we can do about that. You have it, you don't. The capacity for positive emotion. So what that means is you can be in the middle of your worst day, you can be struggling and having the worst time, and still look out the window and say, you know, it's a beautiful day. We got that. And to feel that momentary sense of joy and relief from something good that's happening, we can teach people that. Internal locus of control, what that means is it's the ability when something is a problem to say, what can I do about this? There must be something I can do about this. What is it? And to work towards it, as opposed to just feeling like you're completely helpless and there's nothing you can do. We can teach that. Spiritualism, meaning making, people who've gone through terrible things, a lot of times if they can come to some sense over time of, but I learned a lesson from that, or, well, because of that I met my husband, or because of that I'm a better person now. That's associated with resilience. Family support, having a loving family behind you that believes in you and is caring for you, and community support. Churches, schools, neighbors. It's interesting. It's good to have a good family, but it turns out you really only need somebody out there who believes in you. It can be a teacher or a grandparent or a very good friend. It's great to have a supportive family, but if you don't, look around. What can we do? I think a lot of times one of the worst things is when you know somebody and you love them so much and they're struggling and you think, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do to help them? Well, there are some things we can do. We can build community support. You can take your neighbor something. You can check in on them. You can make sure that the school knows that somebody's having a problem and that get them help. Build access to mental health services. I feel so strong, as a clinician, I feel so strongly about this. You probably know access to mental health care is not equal in this country in any way. I wish we could work on that as a society, because I know for myself, if I didn't have mental health care, I would have been sunk. We can be that supportive family. But the thing that I really want to get across is that we can be that roses man. We can be that person who sees somebody who's having a problem and just reach out to them and say, hello, how are you today? You know, this Rose's man, I'm talking about him now to you. I don't know his name. 50 years ago this happened. I'm still talking about him. That's how much of a difference he made to me. And we can be that man. We really can. Okay. Do you remember that thing where it said we can ask for help? This is me now. I'm going to ask you for help. I would appreciate so much if you're interested in what I've been talking about today, if you would consider connecting with me on any one of these platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I have a blog on resilience, by the way, if you're interested in that. The reason why it would help me if you do that is that I'm trying to find a publisher for my book. I'm doing good, by the way, but one of the things they look for is how many followers do you have? Because that shows them that, oh, there'd be an audience for this book. So if you are interested in it, and even if you're not, I would appreciate so much if you would consider following me. And also, I'd love to hear from you. So, okay, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to speak with you today.